J.K. Rowling returns Human Rights Award to group that denounces her trans views. World News: who cares, just leave people alone. Why would anyone care about what gender people wanna be? If it's not hurting anyone, just let people be happy. Popcorn is required for these comments. The double standard in this thread is hilarious. People saying J.K. Rowling, a hyper-successful millionaire with a far-reaching platform, is just harmlessly expressing her opinion, but all the smaller voices speaking up against her are somehow silencing and oppressing her. Nobody is oppressing J.K. Rowling. She is still doing exactly what she wants and has in fact doubled down on her position. The idea that her free speech is in a stranglehold somehow is laughable. Free speech does not mean you can say what you want without consequence. Number 1 rule of Twitter: don't tweet. Eli 5, I'm a straight minority who votes pro-LGBT. Based on the article, it's like she is saying that women who are not trans should have their own advocates because biological women face different issues. It's like the NAACP protects minorities, but there are also individual organizations who protect specific minorities. So I'm reading this as a parallel goal because that is her focus and not an opposing goal. What am I not getting? If you are going to answer, please give a genuine explanation and not accusing me of something. Just trying to understand. I'm sure she can't sleep at night now, all tucked in with her $1 billion and all. Awards are just something your kids have to throw out after you die. Good luck mods here, yikes. Removed. Putting aside the trans rights argument, Rowling's last phrase in the article is right on the money. This clash of rights can only be resolved if more nuance is permitted in the debate. That's the problem with nearly every major issue I read about these days. People are far too ready to smear reputations and call others ignorant/harmful/fascist without even attempting to see the merit in their point of view and possibly come to a compromise. Life is complex, nuanced and constantly changing. The answers to its questions should be as well. Maybe one day the education system will be good enough to make the average adult realize this instead of thinking they should just scream louder and signal more virtues when someone disagrees with them. Feminists have distinguished between sex and gender for a long time now. Arguably, gender is a social construct, how someone presents their sex and affects how people are treated. We've created buckets of things and have said these are feminine and women must do them, and these are masculine and men must do them. Obviously, what's in the buckets and how strictly enforced things are have changed over times. Women wear pants now. Just like, anywhere they want to. When feminists speak of equality, they generally mean stop forcing these gender constructs on people. AKA there's a rejection of the binary notion of gender. If gender is make-believe, yes, people can go around doing whatever they want. Men can be prissy and order a sale at lunch, women can lift weights and be blacksmiths. In my ideal society, no one blinks an eye at any of that. Sex is the biology. There's no argument that there is not a difference of biology between men and women, and for the scope of this discussion, I am focused on typical XX and XY individuals. Intersex individuals exist and are conceptually distinct from transgender individuals. The XX sex has been heavily excluded from medical research, with a disturbingly high amount of research based purely on XY anatomies. Notable differences involve the reproductive system, menstruation, birth control, pregnancy, menopause, manifestations of heart attacks, occurrence rates of illnesses, etc. Every 3 to 6 months I read an article about a woman dying from an heart attack where they were sent home. So feminism also has a gripe about, hey, get over your gender bias and give female bodies the medical attention they deserve. Transgender reinforces the binary notion of gender. It's essentially saying, I identify with this bucket more than that bucket. Which can be frustrating, but as an overall effect, that idea of individuals playing with their gender may show progress in the loosening of gender norms, or the quickness to label it as a medical diagnosis where something needs to be corrected highlights how uncomfortable society is about people stepping outside of their prescribed buckets. A problem arises when women's issues get policed for not being inclusive enough for transgender individuals. The female anatomy can't be discussed anymore because anatomy isn't part of womanhood when arguably anatomy is the only true distinction between men and women. I think there are aspects of cis women arguments we aren't allowing to be talked about. If I had a biological female part that has been legislated since forever and came from a cis demographic whose history is deep in fighting for body and political/social rights specific to my demographic, then yet I would have some real questions as well. Like, I am trans femme and I have trans friends who don't take into account the way they perceive what womanhood is and what the implications are in demonizing their own genitals and worshipping vagina. I think it's gonna be naturally questionable to cis women when trans women wanna promote the idea of sisterhood, but we'll never have to fight against someone pioneering their new vaginas, or penises. They aren't in the same fight. I think people are too quick to blow up and call people TERFs, just one of a million new liberal words, instead of trying to open a dialogue that isn't so defensive. Edit, thanks for the award. Read another book. Solution: stop making separate bathrooms. Just make one big bathroom, and have floor-to-ceiling stall walls and doors. Put urinals behind a divider area. Done. This whole thing is so blown out of proportion. You can support transgender people living their best life while still believing that biological sex exists. Rowling then wrote a highly personal essay revealing her experience of domestic abuse and sexual assault, in which she argued that trans women who have not undergone hormone therapy or surgical transition should not have access to single-sex spaces. In her statement, Kennedy said that Rowling's comments had the effect of degrading trans people's lived experiences. These arguments can lead to valid, useful discussion, but I don't think social media will ever have the humanity or nuance required to handle such personal and important topics. If you want to hear some actual trans hate, tune into any number of right-wing radio shows. The world of trans hate is far, far outside of Rowling preferring the word women over people who menstruate, which was what kicked off this whole unbelievable controversy. The level of viciousness over something so simple is as surreal as South Dakota's anti-drug slogan meth, we're on it. SRSLY, there are more than enough real villains in the world. Removed. I'm not a huge Rowling fan, but her article that engendered all of this is one of the most balanced and well thought out takes on the trans rights movement. It's hilarious and simultaneously pathetic that this is such a controversial take. Anyone read Rowling's opinions on this? They are very reasonable imo. While I did not follow the issue from the start, I did notice that the trans activists are mischaracterizing JK's words on Twitter. I'm the smartest person on Reddit. I know this because I received thousands of private messages telling me this. I'm not an asshole. I genuinely love and respect all of the idiots on Reddit who are dumber than me, and I will tirelessly fight for their rights to continue using the internet as long as they agree with me. Downvotes will be considered a hate crime, and I will be seeking legal action against anyone who participates in this abuse against me. She's literally just arguing that there are some problems women will face that trans women will never face. Therefore, there need to be advocates for cisgendered activism which go beyond female-gendered activism. For example, forced female circumcision, ovarian cysts, menstruation, etc., etc. This is the same argument that there are some problems trans women will experience that straight women will never experience. Therefore, trans women need their own advocates which go beyond cisgendered activism. Her thinking is actually radical in my opinion, by calling for a new form of activism which benefits both sides, which can work together and separately like a Venn diagram. Now, is it possible that she may have also said some things that aren't picture perfect for the often logically fallacious Twitter vase? Yes, of course. No one is perfect.